Hey, I'm Matt,
I'm Kai.
and this is episode 2 of our podcast. So,
It's movie time, and the movie
yeah,
is Superman right now.
James Gunn Superman 2025.
Yippee. All
Yes.
right. So to start off, we have both had probably pretty different histories and attachments to Big Man. Me personally, this I have not watched any of like the quote unquote classic Superman movies. I have not watched any of the Christopher Reeve movies, nothing like that. I didn't grow up on like the cartoons. I didn't read the comics when I was younger, none of it. I had so my only exposure to Superman basically is through the Snyder movies, which is horrifying, which is a bad sign. So I going into this, I was curious because I do hear like pretty frequently like the point of view of, oh no, Superman's cool. It's just that you need to like see the right stuff from, or it's like something along those lines where he just hasn't had the repertoire of like movies that like a Batman or a Spider Man has. So I was curious going into it, and but I was like very ignorant. I didn't know a whole lot about the character. So that's where I was at. What were you thinking leading into this?
So, I'll say similar to you, I didn't really have the background for the Superman either, aside from the Snyder movies. I didn't watch the original Christopher Reeves movies, even though I heard that the first two were like some of the most iconic superhero movies of all time. Uh, I watched the Snyderverse, and I'll disagree with Kai on certain ends. I did enjoy the Snyderverse in a couple aspects, but I will say did. I understand why people got really, really pissed off with the choices he made. So yeah, and I also do agree that in the past, he Superman hasn't he's kind of been brought down a little bit in the past couple of years because people just don't think he's as cool as other superheroes, mainly like Batman and Spider-Man, and I get that with his character. And when I heard that James Gunn was rebooting the Superman movie, I thought that was really, really interesting because I didn't know that Superman would be the type of character James Gunn would be interested in. But at the same time, James Gunn also hasn't made a bad superhero movie yet, so I was also really, really excited and just to see how this was technically the big beginning of the new DCU after the Snyderverse. James Gunn is now the head of the DCU and he is rebooting it all. And having this movie was really important because it would show if this movie bombed and did bad, then any chance of a good DCU would be scuppered, would just be gone. So when I came into this movie, I had pretty high hopes. And I'll say this, I now I now really, really love Superman. I understand why people really love him, and like just it kind of made me love Superman again in many ways. This movie is really great. It has so many great things about it, mainly probably because it's directed and written by James Gunn. But yeah, as a whole, I really had a great time. If it and I think it's good for just any moviegoer. If you're average, or if you're a critic, or if you're like casual, I think everybody is gonna have a fun time with it. So that's on me. But
Yeah, I'm an
it,
I'm an evil liar because I assumed that you were more attached to this character going into it just because you're more of a superhero head than me in general.
I
But apparently
am,
not. Okay, great,
but
thanks.
I just
I got it.
haven't been attached to Superman as much as like other characters. And my history with DCU has been pretty shaky, mainly because the DCU itself has been very, very shaky.
Because
So
Snyder sucks. But we'll
we'll get into
we'll
that. But
maybe
yeah,
we'll yippee. But yeah, no, it was fun. Is my initial impression. I definitely like the Guardians movies, so that's kind of a big thing going in for me. Whereas like
what about the
I'm
Suicide
not,
Squad?
I haven't seen it because
It's
I
so
didn't
good.
care.
It's
But
so good.
you couldn't because before this movie you would have to pay me to watch a DC movie. But I mean
Bruh.
maybe you still do at this point. But we'll see. But I those movies were kind of, I am not a big MCU head and I haven't been for a long time, where I feel like
I
most
am.
of them are just kind of directed in like a very samey, homogenous, boring, uninspired way, and I don't care. But
You're
I
missing
think
out,
James
pal. You're
Gunn
missing out.
movies, yeah, no, but I think James Gunn movies usually have a little more of a vision to them, a little more stylization. So I was curious, and I knew that like Superman was a bit more of a campy character inherently. So I was very curious to see what kind of tone this would have in comparison, or how he would go about it. And I think he did definitely like fulfill that kind of premise where it's not boring for 100%, and it's is able to maintain a bit of that campiness, which I'm very glad about because I am a little tired of it's not even just an MCU thing, but just the whole, oh, we gotta have our cool superhero movies with where everything's gray and it's all shaky cam. And so
I think
I'm
that's more of
thankful
the Zack
that
Snyder one, but
I don't know. No, I think that that's a bit of an MCU problem as well, with
mm,
some
we'll
exceptions.
get into
But
that later. But I think his
okay, maybe
Kai's
that'll be a different video.
misconception
But
of superheroes is a bit big. So I'll explain it to him a little bit later.
okay, okay, okay. What are you
Anyway.
thinking?
So I think number one, I disagree a little bit. I think the MCU was kind of known for being able to known for being more humorous, but also when it got serious, it was able to balance really good serious tones with some good humor. That being said, a big problem recently has with the MCU has been that it's leaned too much of the humorous side and hasn't taken anything seriously. So I think you got that part wrong. And Snyder's DCU was originally criticized for trying to do the opposite of the MCU and just be too dark and gritty, but maybe with no sense of direction, as you like to see. So I think you have that a little bit sideways. But I will say, I do agree with you. Superman is in his own right a very campy character, and I was a bit unsure if like modern audiences would be able to like sympathize with that type of character, or at least if there could be like a modern interpretation of that character that made modern audiences sympathize with him. But once again, I really do think James Gunn was the perfect person to create this movie because modern audiences really like him, really trust him, at least with superhero content. And once again, this movie just has so many just good things. It's not amazing on every level, but it surpasses the bare minimum in my opinion. There's just the action's a lot of fun.
Sure.
The writing is pretty good in my opinion. The acting is very good. The characters are pretty interesting, and the whole world that's what I was really afraid of. It would introduce us to a world that would be a little bit too campy, but also in its own right, maybe just not kind of a world people want to be in. But like after this movie, I honestly wouldn't mind returning to this world. It's a lot of fun.
I
So
will say, hold on, I gotta shut down the bullshies in here because I did not
bullshizing.
say that all Marvel, like all other superhero movies, were like completely serious, no humor. I'm saying that their tone is really similar in the sense that I don't think they're campy. I wouldn't, or well, not intentionally campy for sure. They're trying to be humorous. I just say that the way that most of them are is like really similar to each other. Like I'd say that most of this is people complain about this one to death, but just like the quit machine Marvel dialogue, where everyone is kind of making the same types of jokes at like a lot of inopportune times in some movies. And it's like I'm tired of the tone. I'm tired of it being so universal for so many of these movies. I don't find it interesting. I
I
find it
under
boring. This movie obviously still has is like jokey, but I it feels more like
it's unique. It's more
well,
unique.
maybe shouldn't say more unique, maybe a little more sincere, if
Yeah.
less like a factory movie
Hey,
to an extent.
what's
I
wrong with
mean,
the word
obviously,
unique?
there's some those like that. What do you mean?
No, okay, but no, I just was saying that like nowadays, at least the MCU is not known for being too serious. It's actually known for being the opposite. It's criticized for being the opposite, like too taking things not seriously or just too. It's the main reason why one of their worst disasters in the past couple of years was Thor: Love and Thunder. It took a very great beloved character with a serious story and made a complete joke out of it for no reason, and most people like
I
related that to
mean,
the whole MCU. But yeah, I
what was
think
that? Was that Secret Invasion show? Was that one really
that that
was the problem there?
no one cared about that show because it sucked on every level, and I had some hope for it, but then I just gave up.
And I'm
Like
saying I
that's
don't
like
think it being too goofy is the problem with all these. I think some of them might just stay
you're focusing
just
in
the
on
problem.
one single show that no one genuinely cared
Or the
about, and
Falcon show,
the Falcon show
like
was
there's a few of these.
was more mixed. People I liked parts of it, but okay, let's go back to Superman. Like
All right.
ultimately, the superhero. Okay, I guess what we're trying to say is that the superhero genre is in a bit of a is in a bit of a like bad space right now. I disagree with people saying oh superhero fatigue and all this stuff. I actually there's a YouTuber that we both like, Cosmonaut Variety Hour, and he has a
Yeah.
good point. People aren't don't have superhero fatigue. They're just fatigued of boring, stale, same run of the mill superhero movies. You can do a lot with the superhero genre that is genuinely amazing. I think the MCU at its peak genuinely was truly fantastic in every possible way and gave us some of the best and most iconic characters I've ever seen and I grew up with, and I had a really great emotional connection with them. It's just recently after the MCU, it's been hard to kind of be able to build right back up to that. They're trying with Avengers Doomsday. We'll see how that goes. But I think the superhero fatigue is coming with that they just don't have as many unique ideas and don't have a clear story to go with.
Yeah, it's
And
not superhero
yeah,
fatigue, it's, like, same shit over and over fatigue.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, and superheroes kinda part of the appeal is that in, like, nature, it's just, like, a human or, like, a person with some extraordinary power. You could do, like, anything with that. That's not inherently, like, a homogeneous concept. It's just that when the same people are making movies with that same idea over and over and over for, like, a decade, then it's gonna get, like, more homogeneous, it's gonna get more boring. But it's not like that people are tired of anything superhero related or anything like just like the form like action,
Yeah.
superpower, supernatural. No, that's definitely not the problem. People are still rushing to see these
So I
movies
guess
if there's
so.
something to get them into it.
Yeah. So I guess maybe like to wrap this idea up, but like like, I was one of the people, like, I keep seeing these people on the internet who are, like, talking about, "Oh, MCU's dead, super fatigue is kicked in, like, we as superhero, like, genre is dead as a whole," and I agreed with them on certain aspects, and I agreed with them at certain maybe even at certain times. Like, there were really like, last year the past 2 years have been, like, very, very rough for superhero movies. There have been many good ones, like Across the Spider-Verse, Matt Reeves' The Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, No Way Home, Shang-Chi. There I keep trying to point out that the superhero genre
Both of
isn't
those did
dead.
well.
There's Huh?
Most of those did well, both like
Yeah,
audience
exactly.
wise and critically.
That's what critically those movies did well critically. But but no, like, I keep trying to, like, try tell some people like that, like, it's not dead, it's just people they're like, those movies do something different and unique with the genre, and that's why people still come back. That being said, I just they have been doing a very, very consistent tone that I do think is very, very bad, and this year I hoped would be maybe a restart with, like, with what they were releasing, it didn't start off good with the Captain America Brave New World movie. That movie was ass in every way. That being said, when Thunderbolts came out, everybody kind of hailed it as like, "Oh my god, the next why we finally have a great MCU superhero movie." And I agree. It's a great movie about so many great things, and even though this guy refuses to see it cuz for whatever
I don't
reasons,
care.
I think it's a great movie. It I but also this summer the blockbuster double with both Superman and Fantastic Four, which I both seen and I can say are really, really good and so far have done very, very well, both critically and financially. I'm hoping that maybe this year might be at least the start where people are saying, okay, maybe superhero movies are back, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That's what Avengers Doomsday is for. But yeah, so
So
starting with Superman, once again, I think it's just a great breath of fresh air. There's so much passion put into this. Like I can feel the passion of this character. I can feel what he is and like why James Gunn really, really enjoy telling a story. And I one of the things that I did find really, really interesting always about his character was that how humans cannot accept how he is an alien that's like 10 times more powerful than them, can literally destroy worlds, and how he chooses to stay on Earth and protect people and just do good things. They are always paranoid that he is going to do something bad, he's going to destroy the world because he has the power to do it. However, he has to fight the battle and show that he's better than what they think he is. He is actually that good and that good of a human being. It's what Snyder tried to do and didn't succeed on a couple aspects. I think he succeeded in certain aspects, but we'll get to that. But I think what James Gunn really, really did well here, and I think that idea of Superman is something that's very, very interesting. And I think when done right, like James Gunn did, is great, can be a great story. So that's my interpretation.
yeah, I mean, we'll get this is a Superman 2025 thing, so I won't harp on Snyder too much, but I think the main thing for me, I do like a lot of the things that this movie does, like story-wise in comparison to what is kind of the standard for some of these characters. But I'd say the main thing for me that just kind of helped was the energy of it compared to most other superhero things in like recent memory. And to be fair, I liked Guardians 3. I liked the Batman as well. But this in terms of like what I would expected in terms of like a Superman thing, I really do think that its willingness to dip into like campier, more over the top and just kind of more filled with life things. Well, it helped it a lot. I think I'd in large part attribute that to one of I think what kind of helped this movie a lot, just from like a basic concept level, which was that this world is already used to superheroes existing. Like the universe this movie was set within is one where civilians have known like about superheroes for a minute, and they've like been used to their presence and like just the crazy things that happen. So it's not gonna be like, oh my god, an alien! What is this? Woo! Like it's not as much of a that kind of played out energy. And I think because of that, it didn't need to harp on stuff like that as much. It didn't need to waste as much time with that angle of it. And it just kind of kept it lighter, where like you were able to kind of shoot things where it doesn't need to be as like imply the level of danger as much when these people are used to it. And it kept the tone lighter and more fun and the focus more on kind of what they wanted it to be, like on the characters that they wanted to focus on. I think it helped to distinguish it from a lot of other superhero schlock a fair bit. I thought it made it a lot more fun, gave it a different energy. It's a big
Yeah, and
lookup I
once
thought it
again,
had.
that's just James. I feel like that's James Gunn in many ways. Like he's able to like bring in his own unique attitude and unique style. That's a lot of fun and can be campy at times, but also just a fun attitude. When I heard that people were saying, "Oh my God, the campy superhero is back," and like they were kind of comparing it to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I was a little bit worried because I personally don't like the camp from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. Like I thought that was a bit too much for me.
Fascinating. Okay.
Like I those movies just weren't for me, and I still think that Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. Hot take, but I'll die on the hill. But yeah, like I that was what I was a little bit afraid of. But luckily, like James Gunn once again really struck the best attitude, the best of both worlds, and where I could like be able to relate to the dialogue and the characters saying it, but also kind of have fun with the campy world and not like fully take everything seriously. But yeah, just once again, this movie, I left it smiling. It made me happy. It made me hopeful, which is what the character Superman is supposed to be. It has a really, really great message. Everybody was hyping up the villain Lex Luthor, and I do like him a lot. I thought what they did with him at the end was a little bit interesting, but that's different. But yeah,
He
just
was
the
great.
action, I
He was
had a
great.
lot of fun with it, but yeah, just I had a really good time, and I think that's what a Superman movie should be. And what it has a good story, it has a good message, and has great memorable characters. So yeah, I just had a really great time, and the ratings and the box office show that I'm not alone. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, something that definitely helped it a bit. I was a big fan of the action direction here.
definitely, yeah,
I think a big thing for me. This is one of my bigger issues with a lot of modern superhero schlock is that I think a lot of it is kind of. I mean, maybe I think it's probably in part because they just want to dodge spending too much money on VFX, but a lot of scenes are
they already
shot
do. They
too
spend so
dark
much money on
for some.
VFX.
I know, but I think trying to. I mean, like hiding perfections in the CGI or
Oh
hiding
yeah, I know.
imperfections in the
Yeah, I
CGI
know what
as
you mean.
well as like not that kind of thing. Where like some scenes are shot dark for no reason. Everything is, and some even some superhero movies that I know are more well regarded. It's like I'm not the biggest fan of the completely gray cityscape and like shaky cam of to cheat impact of like two people not punching each other. It's a very common vibe that a lot of these movies have, and I'm tired of seeing it. It numbs my brain, and it drives me crazy. I definitely was glad that this movie's action felt very kinetic. Like Superman felt like the power that was being sold there was real. The choreography was just fun, like the just sheer variety of moves that he was using compared to like
Yeah,
something you might see
definitely.
on other thing. And just even like the set pieces, just the environments where it was
Felt
usually
alive.
daylit, like transforming between different environments, like the kind of cityscape, the I guess slight spoilers. I don't isn't the most
We can
spoiler
get
heavy movie
spoilers
ever. I
pretty
don't even know.
soon.
I'll
We
just
can get
say
spoilers pretty soon.
I'm gonna just say it now. We both recommend it if you like superhero things. It's fun. I don't even. Again, this is such a hard movie to spoil for me. I don't even know if, but like, I don't know if it's a spoilerable movie. But oh well. But
Spoiler territory
like
now?
the whole, yeah, yeah. But the
Okay.
like alternate universe or like a pocket dimension scene,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just the way that was shot and that set piece, both like the prison box grid and like the like river of like
Like
exploding
protons,
particles or whatever that was.
exploding
Yeah,
neutrons and
that was
photons, yeah.
fun.
That was a lot of
That was just
fun.
like a that was a different environment. That was colorful. Like I smile when things like that are in my superhero movie. That it's it was great. It was fun. Good
Yeah,
energy.
I guess speaking of the action, my favorite scene, I think, is the final battle. Like, especially when he's, like when he's, like, choking on the things that's, like, inside his body and that's trying to kill him, and then he just grabs the 2, like, opponents and, like, flies them up into the air so high, and, like, that's just a lot of fun. Like, the editing, the action, like, the whole, like I loved how Luther and his, like, whole, like, minion team of, like, experts behind him, like, helping him, like, technologically behind, like, aid the fight. It was just a lot of fun, and I found it really, really enjoyable. Another action scene was also the portal dimension scene and the whole big monster scene and the Justice Gang in general. Like all the characters are just like once again, I thought they would be campy and like not in a fun way, but like James Gunn genuinely does strike that perfect balance of like them being fun and campy, but also writes dialogue where I can still like believe them enough and it's funny and it's fun and I enjoy it. But yeah, so I guess going to specifics, one thing I didn't expect, like I didn't expect this movie to have like a very, very deep story, but like it does have an interesting story that actually I think helps the character of Superman. If you remember what I said, what makes Superman so interesting in many ways is that how he is a powerful alien being that literally has the capable of destroying multiple planets and yet chooses to be good and protect this earth that he lives on. And the whole people in the world don't trust him because he does have the power to destroy all of them. And he has to fight the battle to try and convince them that he is genuinely that good and he wants the best for them. He will do everything in his power to be the best. And I thought he constantly had the recording of his parents of their message for him at the beginning of the movie, if you remember. And it's eventually revealed that his parents actually wanted him to come to this planet, colonize it, or just like destroy everybody there and like create it for a new like extension of Krypton. And I thought that was actually very, very interesting because now Superman has to go through his own like crises of faith and truly question whether or not he really actually should be protecting this earth because that wasn't his original purpose at all. His original purpose was actually to destroy this earth, but he was raised in a way that he wants to do good and hope. So I think that's a really, really fascinating super choice with this character that we haven't really seen before. At least maybe I haven't seen before. Maybe it's in the comics or somewhere.
No, that was definitely something I found more kind of fun just from a premise level was how it wasn't so much like in to me however I like interpreted that aspect of the character in this movie. I thought it was less so that he was like this like moral code was built into him by like another person, so much as it was like I don't think
It was
his
probably his parents.
like after a certain point. Well, no, I the vibe I got at least from like the footage they showed, or like the flashbacks, or like the same footage that he had like in his what like in his base, like at the end of the movie when he was like in the chair, that kind of thing. It seemed like, and even just from his parents' dialogue, or not his real parents, his adoptive parents
Yeah, his
on Earth,
adopted parents.
their kind of dialogue, it was less so of. I'm not even saying that this is strictly a bad thing in other movies. I'm just saying that it works for this movie the way they did it here. But how it wasn't so much like you need to help the people, or that kind of vibe. It was, or like it wasn't a great power, great responsibility type of thing as much. It was like live your life, make your mistakes, and figure out what's right for yourself. That kind of vibe. It was a lot free flow in that sense, where
Yeah.
I think the whole movie, the vibe more with Superman was that it was him figuring out these things for himself without that kind of like beacon set for him already. And
Mhm.
I liked that, where it was less, they kind of made that point to where what sets him apart is that he didn't like he after he lost that like clear cut reason or motivation, he still deciphered that for himself and what he wanted to do just through his
Exactly.
own like values. That kind of that definitely like made him a little more endearing. Like us even like compared to other characters, and just as in his own right. I thought that was a fun. In general, I thought that both him and Lex, who I feel like are definitely the two kind of scene snatchers of this movie. I thought both of them, just in terms of how the characters were used, was just fun. Both on like from a visual standpoint, from like a writing standpoint, the decisions they made with them. I think my those probably apart from just like the kind of the editing cinematography, I think that's my biggest, and also the CGI actually was really good in this movie. But apart from that, I think my biggest like thumbs up for this movie is just that those two characters were handled well in like an interesting, satisfying, compelling kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. I will say I thought some of Lex's monologues were a little bit at times too much, but I do understand him as a character and why he like would do that because like he is a very big ego, very big self. We're very selfish and like I like the way he explains how the idea of Superman goes up against everything he believes and it contradicts everything that he is. And I do find that very, very fascinating. And I think, yeah, just overall, Nicholas Holtz's attitude while playing Lex Luthor was just a lot of fun. Like he was this angry businessman that wanted to like do everything in his power to destroy Superman, and he could go between like very, very angry and completely like vengeful to like this calm, calculating businessman who is Lex Luthor. And I will say, a little bit going back to the Snyderverse a little bit, one of the most controversial aspects of the Snyderverse was the choice of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Shit is so funny.
Yeah,
It's really
so
funny, not
okay,
intentionally.
so like most people hated the choice because it's not Lex Luthor at all. Like it's not who he is in the comics at all. It's more trying to make him like Joker. And I understand that. I trust me, if I had a character that I was really, really attached to who was from the comics and they just completely made him something that he's not, I would also be pissed. That being said, I didn't read the comics as much, so I didn't have as much of a connection to him as much. But still, I did enjoy his performance a little bit just for how kind of funny he is, and in certain aspects, I did take him seriously at times because like, of the
Okay.
mainly because Jesse Eisenberg is actually a pretty good actor, but just the character they give him. But I will say, yes, not only is Nicholas Holtz's interpretation probably more comically accurate, but it does actually like nail down who Luthor actually is, why he is one of Superman's greatest enemies, why he will constantly be Superman's greatest enemy. And it's just in many ways very, very interesting. I think an interesting aspect is that Superman doesn't really hate anybody, but Lex Luthor really, really hates him. So it's kind of like an interesting dichotomy where Superman tries to show that he's good and do everything in his power to be good, and Lex Luthor just is the only like one of the people on Earth who can never accept that because this movie explores how it goes against everything that he stands for, and I just find that really, really interesting.
I mean, I'd say that I think honestly, just the main thing that just kept me engaged here was just there are a lot of fun things happening just
Yeah,
visually or like good concept wise. Like if you just look around in this way, or if you just think to like what is happening or like what kind of visuals they're experimenting with here, it's just more varied and there's just a lot of like funky things we can be like, oh, that's fun, that's different. Like
yeah,
even both from kind of more like bigger things or more like fun bigger aspects to the story where like or more overt things like how and I didn't even it honestly took me a second to even realize that this might have been what they're going for, but how Lex is basically screaming out fighting game commands to the clone
yeah. No,
Superman
and the
in the
memes are
middle of the
just so
fight.
funny. The meme is
That was
like the one A
it's just
scene,
fun.
the
Yeah, like
one A
that kind of
scene.
thing. That's just a
That was
fun
funny.
idea where he's literally like using him as like an avatar. That's just a goofy, like a fun concept for something, and it's just different. It made me smile, and even just smaller things and like individual whatever, like what the hell was that creature that was like piloting the like the platform in the pocket dimension, like the thing with like the eyes like kind of torn out and like the white body, like the alien looking guy. They never like explained that thing, but he was just there. And it was
I'm
fun.
trying to remember what you're talking about.
Look at hold on. Just I don't know what you I have no idea how you would search this up, but it was like that let me Google it. Hold on. I don't know what the hell I would look
No, I'm just
tell
trying
you.
to remember the scene because I probably could remember
It
it.
was
Is it
just, it
like the
was just
big?
it was every scene where they were on that slow moving platform in that pocket dimension. Um
Oh, I remember. That was funny.
that
That was
little
really
like
funny.
yeah, that I was like they never explained it. It was just a fun okay, hold on. apparently
Yeah,
it's
I know what you're
nicknamed
talking about.
Mr. Handsome. Yeah, that thing. It's like they
Yeah,
never explain the it's just fun. It just makes it more interesting to look at. Just little
yeah,
things like that. That's something James Gunn does in a lot of his movies, where if you just, like, look around, you'll find something
find something
strange and
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
And, like, it's assuming, but I like having that kind of vibe in, like, a fantasy world ultimately. Like, just
Well,
being able
no one
to
disagrees with you, but yeah.
I know, I
Um,
wish it was more of a what you said, I think, at one point that I'd kinda resonate with is just I feel like this should kinda be the bare minimum in some ways, or I feel like it should be the standard to just have if you're gonna be in set in this kind of or going for something like this,
well, I'd
then
say it used to
you
be, but
should
yeah.
uh, I mean, yeah, I would what I mean, I just say I think a lot of my biggest compliments for this movie are low key like the bare minimum for a story to work. Like, ooh, the main character and main villain are interesting. And I know it's just funny to think on where again I do the thing I will give it major credit for that we haven't touched on too much. I think this movie looks really good VFX wise,
Yeah.
like
It's a unique,
uniquely for a
interesting,
superhero
bright
movie.
look, and it's just fu and it's once again, just a fun attitude.
I mean, I just also mean just from a pure like visual effects quality standpoint. Like for example,
Yeah.
Crypto looked really good, much
Oh,
better than
yeah.
most CG animals that
Dogs,
you would
yeah.
have in a movie. Like like I never had any moment where I was like, "Ooh, that effect looked bad," or "That's not real." Like I didn't have a moment like that. Maybe someone did. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like that in there, but I did not pick up on that while watching. Take me out of it at
Yeah.
any point. And that's
Yeah.
definitely historically been something that occasionally pops up in some movies. So that wasn't at no point was it an issue, and at some points it was actively like oh wow, that looks really seamless, nice. Was a
Yeah,
big upside.
definitely. Um, I'd say just for me as a whole, I what was it? Oh yeah, the Justice Gang were just a lot of fun. Like Mr. Terrific, the whatever Green Lantern he was, and Hawkgirl, they were just a lot of fun. Like the way they interacted with each other, especially Mr. Terrific and just a certain type of attitude that he had. It was just a lot of fun to watch. They all were their own unique characters, their own quirks, and that's what a superhero team should be. And that's why I do love them because they each have their own quirks, they each have their own unique superpower, and they interact off each other in a lot of different fun ways. So, yeah, that's
Actually,
like
I
yeah.
actually think that might have been my biggest issue with the movie was not any of those characters individually. But let me get something right here. Let me check
You didn't
something
like
here
the Super
because
Gang? The
it's no,
Justice
I
Gang? The
liked
Justice
all
Gang.
of you can't even remember, how dare you? But no, I liked all of them in isolation. I think my problem was that this movie is over 2 hours, and a fair bit of that time is on those secondary characters, and I don't know if I cared. I liked them, like, I didn't find them annoying or anything, but, like, I think a fair bit of the movie was spent on them not necessarily getting much, like, real character development, getting, like, shown, like getting screen time and being they were like a fun presence, but they were not like thematically in any respect the point. And so when like a good
I think their
chunk of
purpose
the
was to
movie
show
is
the
spent on them.
I think the purpose was to, like, show how superheroes are really a big thing in this universe and how people are already used to them. I think that's the
Okay, but
purpose.
I know, but you could do that with 30 seconds and not with like 40 minutes. That's my
Well,
point.
if
In
you do
terms
it
of
30
like
seconds, then you're just gonna be lazy in my views. If you wanna actually show how
what
developed this world is, how people are already used to superheroes, then I don't think focusing on just one superhero is, like, enough. I
okay,
think
that's not just
at
what I'm
least giving
talking about though.
reasonable development to
I don't mean
at
their
least more.
existence. I just mean the sheer amount of time that they were that they
They're fun
took
side
up.
characters, they're fun characters.
Again, I just don't think they're again, no, they're fun. They're just not like
I'd say they're fun for
meaningful.
plot. Yeah, they
Like
are,
they're
what are you
not
talking about?
I would not but
Because they already
I
show, like, what other people think of superheroes.
yeah, okay, but that's not I know, but that doesn't mean that they're like interesting in their
I mean, they don't
like
have to be yeah, you don't have to have every single character be, like, completely fully fleshed out and developed unless you're, like, in a single movie, but you can have a fun time. This movie's, like, trying mainly focusing on Superman and Lex Luthor, and it does a good job, and if it gets a good enough development for the other side characters to the point where at least I can say I
okay, I will
enjoy watching them, then I think it did a good job.
so okay, my argument is that I do think that Superman and Lex were the most interesting parts of the movie and
'Cause
were
they're
the
the
point of the
protagonist and
movie
the
in what terms of
antagonist.
what it was going for thematically. And so therefore them not I'm gonna I try to figure this out. I'm gonna try to figure out the script. I don't know if it'll be possible, but Superman screen time. 2025. Because my thing is just I just don't think that they were. I wanted more of them, and I just think that the other stuff going on was not as interesting, and therefore, like, took up time that could have been kind of given to them. Hold on, these dedicated to. Yeah, okay. I don't know if this is something I can figure out easily.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't
whatever. But
let's not.
I don't know. Just, it did not feel. I just thought there was a few too many scenes that were for me consistently the most boring in the movie that were not Lex or Superman focused. And again, I like Mr. Terrific, like he's fine, but he's not like interesting. Like I'm
Yeah,
not.
what are you talking about?
I
He
don't
is.
care.
I've never seen a character like him, and the actor who plays
What?
him is definitely a lot of
You've
fun.
never seen a character like him?
Not with his unique type of superpower.
Really?
Like with those what name a character like him?
What, with, like, mechanical tools that they use to, like, observe things and, like, collect data, like, what?
Yes, name a character like that aside from like maybe Iron Man. But that
Yeah, I was
and
the he was the obvious one, but, like, for
even Iron Man doesn't have that power. Even Iron Man's not exactly like that. He has like a full iron suit. There's like a distinct way. Like the balls make him unique. The ball like it's cool.
I mean, the fact that they are balls, I guess.
Like
I don't know,
he has a different
I
unique
mean more
design.
personality-wise. Was it design,
Personality-wise, he's
yeah.
very, very okay, maybe not different, but he's also fun too. He's a
No,
fun
I get it, he
personality
was
to like he's like
fun
more
no,
the
he
more
was. It was
he's the more stoic guy, and I like that. Like, yeah, he's stoic, but he's also has a lot of fun he has a fun attitude that you can laugh at and enjoy. Even my parents who really
I
didn't love the movie at least had
okay,
fun
no,
with
I
him
will say
with
that
his scene.
you did actually, kinda bring me into my actual maybe biggest issue with the movie, which
Which
was
is
that I didn't laugh. I don't think it was funny,
I laughed at
ever.
certain times. No, I definitely laughed at many. I laughed at a couple jokes. Oh no, my favorite. I think my favorite. The thing I laughed at the most was when Lex got really, really pissed. Like when it zoomed into on his face and he's just like screaming at the camera, and then it just shows how he knocks over the glass and then screams at his assistants to pick it up, and then he knocks something else off and screams at his assistants to pick it up again. That's just
I
funny.
I did not. I don't
That
know.
was funny. Oh my god.
I did not find it funny.
My god.
Which
Mood killer. This guy.
I didn't find it annoying, but I know some people who did, but I did not find it annoying. I just this is a
Just like
thing with a
yeah.
lot of kind of movies that are kind of going for half parts like a comedy tone, where it's like if it's not actively pulling me out of it, it's not the biggest issue. But if it's something that it's going for tonally and not succeeding, then I don't know if I can like completely pass on that. I don't
Get
know. It
it,
was
but, like, no, there's also, like, his girlfriend and how she's trying to date this news reporter. I just kinda found it a little bit funny, just the way he, like, any maybe, like, any common normal person would literally just say, "Yeah, I'll date you if I get information, like, I'll get information that genuinely could, like, help me and, like, help
okay. To be
people and help
fair,
my
the bit
company,"
there is
and,
that
he
she's like so
genuinely
no 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 no
refuses
no.
to do it.
Yeah, because she's the bit is that she's annoying. Is
Yeah,
this
I
the
know, but,
idea?
like, how
Like
he genuinely refuses to just because she's that annoying, and, like, yeah, she's
I don't
annoying, but
know.
if
I
she's
didn't.
that annoying, then, like, if he's actually hesitating, even if the world's at stake, then I just found really, really funny.
I don't. It's
'Cause
fun.
the world's literally
I
at
don't know.
stake, and he's literally choosing to hesitate just because he finds this girl a little bit annoying.
I would describe it as charming.
It's
I did not
funny.
laugh.
It's
I don't.
funny.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that.
Okay, anyway, do we wanna wrap up, or how much more do we have to say about it?
We can wrap up. Yeah, I don't think I have much more to elaborate on.
Yeah.
It was
Once again,
fun.
like last thing, as a start to the new DCEU with James Gunn and head, I'd say it's a pretty good place to start off. I would find it interesting how Batman, like an actual serious take of Batman that most audiences really enjoy, could fit into this universe. But if James Gunn can do it with Superman, then I wouldn't be shocked if he can do it with other characters. And yeah, so I think this movie is a great start to DCU. I really would like to return to this world. Just a good movie, and once again, I think the public has now changed their minds on Superman, convinced that he can actually be done right in a good way, and no longer tired of him. And I'm hoping that combined with this, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, maybe superheroes are gonna start getting back up, but who knows? We're in a long shot, and Avengers Doomsday is gonna really determine that. But yeah. So to my ranking, I would say 8.5 out of 10. I wouldn't go to like a 9. I
Really
I
lower.
know Kai's probably gonna give it, like, a 6 or something because he's, like, very,
Fucking
very cruel, but,
8.5.
like, 8.5 just because, like, if it was a 9, then it would be, like, a
Okay.
great movie, but, like, 8.5 is, like it's a pretty fun, good movie, and I would enjoy seeing it again and again, and you can't I can't think of anything that would really hold it back in many ways. So, yeah, I'd say 8.5 out of 10. So, yeah.
Okay. I would not go that far, me personally. I don't think I have
So
any
so
superhero
he
movie
means, like,
above an
6
8,
or something.
but it was fun. Again, it was fun. I like what it was more unique than a lot of other super schlock, so I'm gonna call it. It was fun, it had a good tone, it looked great, 100%. That was probably the biggest draw of it. Wasn't super, like, emotionally invested, wasn't groundbreaking, but it was fun, and that's more than I would give like 99% of recent superhero stuff. So, again, it did the bare minimum, which is good, and it did a little more. Again, it looked better than the bare minimum, which is a plus. Again, not perfect, but it was fun. I liked it. So yes, I am giving it a 6, which I know you
6?
consider to be
Jesus
basically
Christ, dude.
calling it. I know you consider that to be dog shit. I can above a 5 to be like by definition good. Like above medium.
Above a 5 to be
It
good?
was
My
good.
god, dude.
Yeah.
That's insane, my dude.
No.
It is!
8.5 is very close to 10, and I'm
No,
not giving this a
8.5 is,
close
like
to
it's
10.
oh my god, that's what Cosmonaut Variety Hour gave it.
Okay, because so he's not my
So if I
father.
no,
I
but
don't
I know, but
care. Why
you
would
talk
you
about it you
say?
talk about it all the time too, but, like, okay, fine. Like, my
Yeah, because he
ranking is
plays
I
fighting
relate
games and
my
that's
ranking to
awesome.
his ranking because, like, we have the same type of, like, scale. A 6 out of 10 would be like it's not
Yeah, I don't have
terrible,
this
but
type of
it's
scale.
okay, fine. Yeah, sure, fine. Okay,
Yeah, if I
so
think something's fine, good, thumbs up, then it's a 6. If I
sure.
think something's pretty
Jesus.
great, then it's a
Jesus, this
7.
guy is
If
such
I
a
think
downer.
no, 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 let's get this out here. And if I think it's 7, like great and it's fun and I like it a lot, then it's a 7. If I think it's
Oh,
amazing, like it's phenomenal, it's like really fun and I kind of want to rewatch it, it's an 8. If I think it's like
you don't
almost
wanna rewatch this
perfect, like
movie?
brilliant, super unique. No, not really. If it's like super
Jesus.
unique, that kind of thing, then I give it a 9. If it's like basically perfect and I literally can't think of anything it's doing that's like not befitting of what it's trying to do, then it's a 10. I think I only have one thing on Letterboxd as a 10 right now. I might bump a few other things up at some point, but
Okay, fine.
I don't give out 10s much at all.
Yeah,
That's where we're
neither
at.
no, in all fairness, neither do I. But, yeah. So now to move on to a movie that is completely the opposite tone in every
Oh,
way
hell yeah.
possible. Um, Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners came out in 2013. Um, so last episode on this podcast, we talked about Blade Runner movies, and we also talked particularly the old Blade Runner movie and Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049, which came out after Prisoners. And while I think that movie definitely put him on the spot, like really made him a famous and sought out director in the film industry in general, this was one of his more earlier movies in many ways, and was one of the movies that kind of started really establishing him as a director more and just his style more. And the first time I watched it was more like a year ago, and I expected it to be really, really good at the very least because it's Denis Villeneuve. Um, and yeah, I was shocked. I really love this movie, and after rewatching it recently, I still love this movie just because the more I think about it, the more I really love it. The more I thought about it a lot deeper and more thematically, there's just so much to love about this movie, and it's just so unique in a lot of different ways because it does things I don't really think I've seen often, at least. And it just has so much to say, and the acting is like overall great. The plot twist at the end is really, really good, and just overall what it means thematically and the attitude it has and the tone is so interesting and fascinating, and it just has a lot to say that I really, really love. So I'm guessing you don't agree exactly?
Mostly. I would not say that its strong point is that it's unique. I would not phrase it that way. I'd say that it is most like it is a crime thriller. It is a crime thriller. Straight up. It is a
Definitely.
very successful one. It is a very fun one. I'm not gonna say it's like reinventing, but it is again. It's very
Does
well
something I
shot.
haven't seen
It's
often.
very, very, very well acted. I think that my biggest compliment for it is that everyone is acting their balls off. Is that there are a ton of really good performances. I mean, a lot of really good actors like Jake Gyllenhaal, Paul Dano,
Hugh
Hugh
Jackman,
Jackman, David
and
Dastmalchian, like Terrence Howard,
oh,
Viola Davis. Everyone is doing
yeah.
a good job. Even actors who I've only seen in bad things before, looking at Dylan Minnette, are still doing a good job.
Wait, which actor?
It,
Which
it is
actor?
Dylan Minnette, who I know from 13 Reasons Why. So my
He plays
my
what?
idea of him, he plays the son
Oh,
of Hugh Jackman, like that
oh,
guy.
I
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't really focus on him that much, but yeah.
No, he's but I even no, it's just the little we saw of him, his performance was good. That's my point. Is that even actors who I've not been too keen on in their other work were still doing a great job here. It was very thoughtfully directed and like crafted overall. I
Definitely.
think I so initially I think because we talked about it briefly after I finished it. Um, my thoughts on it immediately after I saw it, are not the same as they are now. This is more so we're recording this basically 2-ish hours after I saw them, or like 2 or 3 hours after I saw the movie. So usually I would have a little more time to sit on it in terms of like my thematic interpretation. After I first saw the movie, I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how much I should be reading into it initially because it was a little. I was basically trying to decipher what was subtle for the sake of it being unclear, just for like the thriller, just for like the detective side of it,
He was
or
trying
what
to
was
solve the
actually
maze.
trying to be like subtle thematically, like something you could pick up on. I'm leaning into the latter version of events now, where I do think it's trying to very subtly and very, I mean, not subtly, but very kind of covertly motion some a few things. But I'm not super confident on what it's saying yet. And this is probably out of most
Pretty
movies I've
confident.
seen, it seems like the least I've seen a unified interpretation on this movie. I try, usually I don't even look up what people are thinking in that sense, just because I don't care. I usually think people are kind of off by the mark for a lot of things, but on this one, I am a little confused still, and I'm still trying to figure it out for myself. Granted, it hasn't been very long since I saw it, and I didn't take that many notes, but it does not seem like there's a super agreed upon interpretation of what it's trying to say, right? And that is perfect. That's what I like to see because the movie's been out for a minute, so it's not even just like the people are still settling on it. It's just it is I do think it is actually very subtle in the way that it's presenting information, and I had a thinking about it now is making it more fun in hindsight. It was
Yeah.
fun. It was interesting.
I I basically agree, except with the fact that I have a relatively clear interpretation of what it means. But yeah, once again, like unlike most of Denis Villeneuve's films, at least, well, most of them, I'd say, maybe not all of them. It has a very, very, very bleak attitude. It is like very dark in its atmosphere, and at least in its world and atmosphere. Not a lot of pleasant things always happen, and I love how he kind of takes this pleasant scenario and does something like a terrible thing happens, and how that really terrible thing really influences the characters, and really all the movie is about is how that instigating incident really like influences everybody in many different ways. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, maybe this is a far cry for you, but it reminded me a little bit of Robert Eggers' The Witch, and how yes, The Witch
What?
is the title. Try
Really?
no no
Okay.
try to listen to me. Yes, The Witch is the title of the movie. Yes, The Witch is like we see the witch and like kind of what she does, but ultimately the movie is about the character's reaction to what she does and how those characters truly go insane through like because of those actions, and really all the movie is about is the main character's reaction to what the witch does, and how that kind of culminates in what the family's experience and ultimately results in the end we got. We're not going to spoil The Witch, but I would say both of us do recommend it. But yeah, this this movie also really just goes deep into the idea of trauma and how it really affects every single person involved in the movie. I'd say the surprise antagonist, which we'll get to, and how like the entire idea, like what I really do love about this is kind of going deeper, is that the main poster for the movie, the main symbol for the movie, is this idea of a maze, and that's a big thing in the movie. And how I thought really deeply about this, how all of the characters are stuck in their own maze, and I'd say the maze is kind of like a metaphor for their own trauma, and how they're genuinely trying to move on and get past it. And while some, actually most characters don't really even get past it, they are stuck in that maze because they're trying to escape it, but it drives them insane and eventually forces a lot of them to do just terrible things. And that's something I really do love about that movie, like, when it does something that deep and that profound, even if it's said by a couple other movies, but the way this movie does it, like you said, the actors go all out on it. So, I really did believe it, I really did believe it. But, yeah, what do you think?
Um, I mean, I think for this movie, well, maybe we should get into spoiler talk because I can't
I
really
yeah, I
talk
don't
about this movie
I
too
can't talk
much
about this movie
without
without
talking about
spoilers.
what I think. Yeah, it's a like a crime movie. This is kind of inevitable, but yeah, we both recommend it. Definitely can get heavy at points. Very, it's entertaining. It's well paced. It's interesting. It's intense. It's fun. It's well shot. Very, very, very well acted. We both recommend it. It's good. All right, spoiler time.
Yeah.
Um, I think that this movie is pretty overtly very religious in
Yeah,
its
no, definitely,
theming.
I agree, I
I
actually
think
do agree.
I think it is definitely kind of primarily trying to say something like about religion's purpose to people in a sense. And I
Definitely, I
think
agree.
that this is tricky for me because as someone who isn't religious and is kind of aggressively not religious, it makes it trickier to interpret certain things going on here for me at least. I do think but it's definitely interesting and I do like how much that kind of you can feel that kind of wash over every character. I'd say I'm still trying to think of exactly what it's trying to say in that respect. And I think part of what makes me falter in terms of the theming is just kind of where characters end up a little bit. Since while I was watching it, I definitely saw what you mean about kind of the darkness of it because I just full spoiler mode to preface. I the part where it genuinely makes you think that the kids were eaten by snakes was badass. I did not expect that just when
Yeah.
he opened the box of snakes, I was like, oh my, oh fun. That was different. That was like extreme. I was into that. I was very curious. Development 100%. Um, and then I think that I thought it would have a more sad ending, I guess I is what I expected going through it. It seemed like it was going in a and this is probably part of its theming that I'm still kinda interpreting now, is that I expected it to be more bleak in where it was going. I thought that it would have that downward spiral be a little more, of, like, the focal point of it, and I mean, it is still kind of the point of it on a character level. But, whatchamacallit? I just I don't know. The fact that it ends in such a like a hopeful way makes me changes how I'm interpreting what it's trying to say about kind of religion's effect on people in a sense. I'm still working through it. There's a lot going on there.
So, I agree with your idea of, like, it's about religion and all that stuff. In many ways, it is. And it just, like, oh, I just have so much to say about this. It's like, where do I start? But, like, with the ending, ugh, I so with the ending, I really liked it the first time I saw it. I thought after a movie that was that dark and that bleak, like, I expected it to end in also another dark way. But, like, I actually really liked that it ended the way it did because after a movie that was so miserable in many ways, it had a lot of terrible endings for a lot of characters, and just I was feeling really, really bad at the very end, and how it gave us hope. That's the way the ending it, like, ends with, like, ultimately they're searching the house, and then ultimately the main character is buried, and we think he's gone forever, and all of a sudden, just when the police are about to leave, the whistle blows, and it shows that maybe, just maybe, he might have a chance of being saved. Right at the end where so many characters have gone through so much, it doesn't even show it shows the detective just looking up after he heard the whistle. We don't even know what happens afterwards, but I like the way someone described it's like it's literally on the line of despair and hope. It's like you're in
See,
the middle of the maze and you can literally see just a tiny light flicker. And what I love is that it ends on that
Mm.
and nothing else. And that's what I love about
That's
it.
fascinating because I didn't feel that just pure, like, emotional reaction. I thought that it was, like, 100. It felt like a huge, like, 180 between, like, kinda bittersweet, like, "Oh, they saved him, but he's dead, blah, blah, blah," that kinda thing,
Well, they
to,
don't the
like,
idea is
"Oh,
that they
well, he's
don't
just
show he
fine."
saved. They don't show that he
Yeah,
got
but, he
saved.
like, but logically he is.
Well,
That's
we
why it
don't even
didn't have
know.
that effect for
Well, we
me.
don't know. That's the idea.
To be fair, I did see an interview with the director, and he did say we know. He did say that that's the
Alright,
so,
well,
like, I maybe not
I
the
didn't
director,
see
maybe
the
it was one of the
interview, so
writers,
in that
but
case,
I don't think
I
yeah,
didn't
I
s
don't think it was Denis Villeneuve, I think it was one of the writers, but yeah.
oh, then
But, yeah,
that's
no, that
strange, but
which, I mean, that's they're the ones that wrote it, but still, they're the ones that chose that, but maybe an editor, maybe someone involved with that decision, mentioned how that was like, that was always the intent, and they just wanted to think of what would be more effective in terms of what they show, like, just visually for to communicate that,
mhm.
but I think what I'm mainly on is that, again, I just need to, because 'cause I'm looking through other people's interpretations of this a bit. I can't land I need to look into the writers more and their filmography and their kinda what they've been doing. Because maybe even Denis Villeneuve himself to an extent, depending on how closely involved he was with the story of this.
He usually
But
is pretty close with the writing process.
because what I encountered was that a lot of people said that it was a very kind of pro-faith, pro I heard this. I thought, or no, I saw a few people interpret Loki to basically be God in a sense, or a mortal
Not God,
kind of
maybe
example of
Jesus?
God. So I saw a lot of people trying to interpret him as God in that sense, which I didn't get while I was watching it. But there's
Neither did
something
I.
there if they're looking at it as some. I think mainly the argument there was that he was basically like an objective, like, working of how the world's work. Like, he moves things along without, I guess, sin in a sense, or he's just which I again conceptually as a detective I see, but that's not how I was interpreting his character when I was watching it. To be fair, I thought ego was actually a big part of him. At least it felt that way to me when I was watching it. But that maybe there's something there. But and then on the other hand, I saw the interpretation that it was ultimately saying that religion is kind of meaningless. I saw some people say where it was more of an attempt to justify something more primal, which obviously, frankly, given my own worldview, I'm more like inherently um like partial toward, but I'm not sure if that's what it's saying. And then on the other hand, I saw the perspective that religion was kind of just one way that these characters tried to work through this situation. I again, there's a I'm not sure what it's doing. Again, I would need to sit with it for longer. And again, frankly, for me, the fact that I do need to sit with it more in order to come up with a concrete interpretation of it is a good thing. Is nothing but a good thing. That's what I prefer when I'm watching a movie. I don't want it to be like, oh, I watched it, done, leaving my brain forever. That's not the in a state where I want to and am thinking about it more is a strict positive in my book. And that's a bigger compliment that I can give it, honestly.
No, I agree. So, onto the idea of religion. So, I don't think it's pro or even anti-religion. I don't think it takes a clear stance on religion, if I were to be honest. I love what it does with the main antagonist of the movie. So I guess the ultimate thing is that the plot twist is that instead of Paul Dano's character, which was suspected to be the abductor, it was actually his mom, Holly. And I love how she describes like her conflict, which is that her husband and her had a son and unfortunately died at a young age, and because of that, they never forgave God for it. And so them kidnapping other children was their war, quote unquote, war with God and their revenge for him. So it's not even the Satanism. It's that they genuinely felt so horrified by what God did and how God took away their own child that the only way they felt like they could get back at him was to inflict that same exact pain that they felt on other families because God gives life and he at least wants to give life, and for some reason he took he allowed for
I
their
mean,
son's life to be taken. And I love how their choice of God, war against God, is to do this to other people to make those parents feel exactly what they felt and to do horrible things in order to find their own children, as they would. And I love how it ultimately ends with Hugh Jackman's character facing off against this woman's character and how they both went through very, very similar things, like, at least for losing their own child, like, not losing for Hugh Jackman, but, like, being wanting to get their child back. And I love how it forced him to do terrible things, and he ultimately did those terrible things to an innocent victim who was abused mentally as a child, and that's just really terrible because he literally is facing an evil that he didn't fully succumb to, but he went to, and that in many ways goes against his own personal religious beliefs as a religious man. I'm not that religious either,
Yeah,
honestly.
that was fascinating there,
Yeah, I'm
though.
not that
I did
religious
like
either,
the
honestly,
element
but
that
I found it interesting. Like, I found that very, very interesting,
I think
that
what I
moral thing.
liked about that in part is that it wasn't just it's not because she kind of phrased it as she wants to shake people's faith basically to make people maybe have a similar experience to her like oh God can't how could he do this no world God could do this or something like something along those lines as much
Yeah,
but it's kind of clear that that's not what's going on because for a few one Hugh Jack but again I do agree that I don't think it's a strictly like pro or anti thing. I don't think it's being that
exactly.
black and white here because it is kind of it's pretty subtly alluded toward how his or well it's something I actually missed it initially and when I went back to see more people's reaction to it I realized oh yeah that did happen that makes sense but how her husband who was a oh, like a co-conspirator like they were both a serial killer that were doing this together he went back to that priest to confess this like after the fact so he still even though he did this whole kind of war against God he still went back there in the end to try to confess, to try to go to him, which again, ironically, just was what got him killed because the priest killed him anyway. The sex offender priest, who himself was also not abiding by his religious principles, the one who
Exactly.
did him in
Contradictions.
after he tried to get yeah. And Hugh Jackman's character, I guess, kind of what ended up being kind of a big main for me at least when I was watching it, like focal point of it was that it's not that his faith wasn't really shaken at all. It was kind of the opposite. He used faith in order to keep him on that path, or at least he kind of felt like so. That's how he tried to justify in the very beginning of the movie. That's kind of what he did as they were killing something. Obviously, again, not same as torturing a person, but just like thematically, them like him relaying that kind of prayer and then them shooting the deer, and then
Yeah.
later on when he's like torturing and that kind of thing.
It
I've
ends and
heard
starts with his prayer in many ways.
yeah, but it is the I think part of what I find interesting is that I've also seen the interpretation and I'm shaky on if I agree with this or not, or if this is just like a plot thing. And I'm again, I'm curious and I'm not convinced right now. I've heard the perspective that whenever later in the movie, whenever he prays, that's when Loki shows up, like immediately afterwards, when Loki discovers something. And so it's supposed to allude to the fact that Loki is actually the force that's acting on that prayer. So as Hugh Jackman's doing that, he's not really the one having that impact in the moment. Like that's not doing something in its own right, but what he kind of alluding to the fact that Loki is the actual kind of I guess moral good or maybe just like the force that is enacting that in a sense.
Mm.
Maybe again, I'm not that could also just be a really obvious um
I think people are still
like
looking
point
too deep into his character.
hey I don't know
He's still pretty morally screwed. He does a lot of bad, like, I mean, maybe not in the overall course of doing good. He's on a path of trying to do the right thing, but on that path, he does do a lot of pretty at least he does do a lot of pretty bleak stuff. Like,
yeah,
in
I
many
don't
ways, he beats up in many ways what our at the time, well, what
Loki's the
are
reason why the guy got killed in the preset. Like when Bob Taylor got taken in, Loki being like frustrated and losing his shit, in him like rushing in and like beating him. That's the reason why he killed himself. Like that
and how that helped
kind of
them.
screwed them over.
How
That
did that
got
help
them.
them?
No, that's my point exactly. Is that they got less information because of that. So I don't know if I
So
can
how does that, like,
see.
overall show him as a figure of good?
Yeah, I don't. Well, it's not even a figure of good. I think these people are arguing just more so that he's like because I don't even know if they're arguing the gods of force of good, just as much of like an objective force of nature as
I
much
did
is the
hear that
point.
there was, like,
But
a reason why they named him Loki, like, after the Norse
oh
god.
well,
I'm not
yeah, that
sure,
is
though.
interesting. No, but that I mean that's obviously it. You don't name a fucking human being Loki
I
unless
know.
you're trying to say something. I mean that's no, there's definitely something. I mean even also just him the oh what was it in the beginning of the movie like the Like the rooster that what's the word for this? I'm losing my mind.
The
Um,
what?
what? Oh my god, what's it called? The like it's like depending on when you're born, it's like the different animal assigned to you. Like someone was monkey, someone was rooster,
Oh,
like that thing.
The Chinese New
The
Year?
zodiac, yeah, that thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's what it's called. Let me make sure have the
That's
terms
more
right.
like that's more constellations with if actual animals than this Chinese New Year.
I know, no, I don't think it's a new. Hold on. I think it. Hold on. Is this? Yeah, I think it is this. Well, I'm not. You can tell we're not. This is not our area of like that. General,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
there's
Okay,
something.
let's move on.
There's like non. No, but there is like very clearly with him a lot of non-Judeo Christian concepts of like religious belief or spirituality that are being portrayed with him, which is kind of pretty strongly contrasting to me, at least, with kind of Hugh Jackman's faith. And there's 100% something being said there. But again, it's tricky. And I'm not 100% there yet on what. And again, that's a good thing. I'm not saying that is not a knock. That is interesting. That
Yeah,
makes me curious, which I want to be when I'm watching a movie. That's the goal.
this guy. Why can't this guy ever have fun for once and say, "Yeah, I
This
had a
is
good
fun.
time."
I am having a good time. What are you talking about?
6 out of 10 for Superman. But yeah. Anyway,
I said I had a good time with it. You're hating. Okay. You're the
I'm
hater.
hating. You give something a six.
You're
You
hating.
gave something a
And I said I
60%.
liked it. And I smiled. I gave it a thumbs up.
Which doesn't make sense. But okay, fine.
Oh my god.
But no, yeah. For this, so I was gonna say something. Wait. Okay, so oh yeah, so I guess I'll go into one of my favorite scenes. I think what is considered the most iconic scene in the movie, which is the bathroom scene where the hammer scene, more specifically, with Hugh Jackman, Paul Dano, and that other actor. I keep forgetting his name, but where Hugh Jackman really just lets everything out. Like he is on the grip. He's at the end of his line here because he remembers what Paul Dano says, like about the children, how he knows something about the children's location, how he's genuinely just losing everything and releasing all of his anger and all of his frustration, screaming, "Where's my daughter?" And apparently, like Denis knew, like Kubrick, like did like 30 takes of this. And I remember there's like a funny story Hugh Jackman said behind the scenes. It's like Hugh Jackman like gave one of his like most all out scene, and he's just like releasing everything he has, like everything. And then he comes up to Denis Villeneuve afterwards, like, "Okay, how are you done?" And he's just like, Denis just shaking his head. It's like, "Look, I know it's a bit, I know it's a lot to ask, but like, you need to go there." And he looked at him like sweaty, and he's just like, "That wasn't there." And he's just like, "No, go again." And I just find that really, really interesting, the kind of Kubrick style direction. But like, still, that scene really does like haunt me, not just because the acting is that good, but because like it just shows just how, in many ways, like kind of once again, I think like is an interesting religious aspect because like the entire idea is like you don't want to harm people. Like in your religion, you're taught like not to like wrongfully harm people, and in many ways, he was wrongfully harming that guy because ultimately Paul Dano's character was innocent. He was an abused child who was a victim of all of this terrible stuff that the parents did, and genuinely, Hugh Jackman's character is just doing such terrible things to him, and in many ways, kind of going against his own religious code and holding him hostage. And I guess like it makes sense as a as a father, it makes sense. Someone who's willing to go there for your child, and it just kind of shows just where you go for your child and how it makes you do terrible things. And I do like the religious aspect where it can even go against the like root identity of your religion to try and do good in the world. And I just love because like it's all intertwined with that idea where we're waging a war against God. We're making those parents feel the exact pain that we felt, and that is our ultimate revenge. And I do really find that really interesting and fascinating in so many ways.
Now, I will, on that note of that character, I did have, as of right now, I think
Which
I
character?
only really have one issue. The main antagonist. The wait,
Oh,
did we ever say spoiler warning? Hold on.
no, we did. No, we
Did
did.
we? Yeah, we
We
did. We
did.
did. Okay, thank God, thank God. But what should I call it?
Holly. Her
I
name is Holly.
think yeah. So I think every single performance in this movie was like fantastic, like amazing, except for Melissa Leo's in that role. Maybe it wasn't as maybe it was something to do with the direction she was given, but I was not the biggest fan of that character's screen presence kind of consistently.
Disagree. I disagree. I thought that she did at least her purpose at that point in her story was how I feel like she acted like no, I disagree. She, like, had this reserved calm where she's just, like I feel like she's acted in a way where she already released so much anger and, like, sadness and had so much trauma for her from her past that I feel like she's just tired at this point, and she's just so used to it, and the way she acts and the way she's just like, "Yeah, I don't care. I've done terrible things. I'm damned for what I do, but, like, this is my war against God. This is the path I chose, and I'm gonna finish it till the end." I just feel like that angle is a really, really interesting way that she acted and that she acted. So that's the way I interpreted it, at least.
Uh, no, I do think that was probably the direction given. That definitely would line up with the performance. I just I think that's a very difficult thing to portray because we've talked about a movie recently where something felt a tad, a smidgen phoned in in a different movie, and I think that it's difficult to portray a character that's like resigned in life to an extent. Where I think it's a very fine line here too, because again, she's very committed to this kind of like mission, while simultaneously, yeah, being a little kind of resigned, a little more kind of maybe tired is the right word. I it felt strange to me. I was not invested in that character. It was not. It felt
They're not
strange to me.
supposed
It
to
felt
be.
off
She's
putting.
like she's evil.
Okay, no, I meant in the, okay. I was not convinced by the performance.
I
I'll put it that
I
way.
thought she did her role pretty well. I thought yeah, I disagree, but, like, mainly because there's, like, so many dimensions. I feel like if you really look at it, like, deeply, there's, like, so much she's actually trying to say. Once again, I do think that her performance did that aspect pretty well, but, yeah, what else to say? I mean, I think
Maybe it
just
probably didn't help that their dialogue was, like, by far the corniest in the movie,
I
which,
disagree,
again, I
but
don't even entirely mind, but, I mean, just compared to the other characters. Like, I'm not
no, I
even saying
disagree
it's
because
that
it's
big
the
of
ultimate culmination. In all fairness, I don't fully remember the dialogue at the end. I just remembered the waging war on God and how everything
"This
was
is
kinda like
our mission against God." Like, that is not something a human would
it
say.
was our mission
Again,
against God.
she's a serial killer, so it's like it's fitting in that sense,
No,
but, like,
but she herself was religious, that's the idea, and she kinda
I know.
and in many ways, she felt betrayed by that, and I like that. I like that attitude where she was genuinely so betrayed by it that she genuinely wanted that in order to get revenge on God, she decided to inflict the same pain that she and her husband went through on others, and that was the only way she felt like she could actually do it, to get revenge on God and maybe get some sort of maybe, like, catharsis out of it, like, 'cause at least she's not alone anymore. Other people understand what she's going through, what she truly understand what she's going through, and, like, she inflicting that pain on others is the only way that she can get some relief from it. And I just find that really, really I just found that really, really interesting, and once again, Hugh Jackman's character looking at her almost as if he's kinda looking at himself in the mirror, showing just how much he's willing to go to maybe save his daughter to the point where he betrays his own religion just like she did, and does such terrible things.
Yeah, no, again, I found the character interesting, but I d I 100% picked that up on Jackman's performance. I was not as convinced by her, and it took me out of
I
it
once
a
again
little bit.
disagree. I don't think she's, like, Oscar worthy, but, like, she did her
Again,
part.
I
She
think
did a good
everyone else
job.
was. That's why it was off-putting, is because of when everyone basically is,
Uh,
that's when it feels a little weird.
okay, when you submit, like, not a great performance, but a good one, then I'm not gonna complain. If you did your job and you did it well, then I'm not gonna complain.
I know, but again, it's gonna be off-putting when every other performance is, like, absolutely outstanding,
Okay,
and one isn't.
fine. We're
It's
okay, I
strange.
agree to disagree, but, like, also another scene, like, the whole suicide scene was very, very interesting, like just, like, I also like, yeah, I will say Jake Gyllenhaal's performance and Hugh Jackman's performance were just really outstanding, but, like, I think Jake Gyllenhaal's performance was really, really interesting in how maybe he nailed that idea of reserved and, like, how genuinely he was committed, but, like, maybe an interesting thing is, like, how Hugh Jackman got really, really angry at him because he didn't seem committed enough on the outside, but on the inside, he really, really was, and just the way he kind of interrogated people, like, I love the opening scene with the opening interrogation with Dano, how he's just kind of in his face and slowly like, "What do you know? Like, what's going on?" He's just saying it calmly and slowly, but the way he's doing it, the way he acts, like, the way he does it is just a really, really good acting on his part. And speaking of which, Paul Dano's character, like, I was kind of really relieved by like, I was like I knew it wasn't him at the end, but just the overall his overall story is, like, depressing as fuck. Like, he was kidnapped and he was, like, abused, and then all of a sudden, he was framed for this horrible crime and abused by the other officers and, like, for good reason because he looked suspicious in many ways, but it was because of Holly's actions, and it just, like, the whole idea is just messed up in so many ways, and also, the character who committed suicide, just what he does and, like that's why I say this movie's bleak as hell, and that's what makes it so good. I just have so much to say about it, but, like, I think once again, going back to the ending, I still think the ending is perfect because after such a bleak experience, it gives us not a happy ending, but a spark of maybe hope. And that maybe it was supposed to be like, oh, they rescued him, but at least how I interpreted when I watched it, like, I love just the way it ended. Like, he's like, wait, he looks out, like, he hears the slight whistle and just looks out a little bit. And maybe, just maybe, that's the hope, and I just love, like, it doesn't give you the answer, the full happy answer, but it gives you just, like, a light of it, just a spark of it, and that's what I love about it.
That again, I didn't quite again, I didn't really think it was as bleak as it was, like, heavy
The movie
for
as a
most of
whole,
it. Like, yeah. Again, I didn't think it was
it felt heavy and pretty, like, it
like,
didn't seem
bleak
like it
as in
had
hopeless, I didn't feel as
it
much.
felt pretty ho for most of the movie, it felt pretty damn, like, hopeless. I didn't at least think anyone was gonna, like, have a happy ending. I didn't think it was gonna have a happy ending at all, so,
I mean, I didn't,
that
but it did. That's why I can't describe it as
it
bleak.
had
I mean, well,
something, and,
I
like,
guess that means that most yeah, maybe, I don't know.
it had, like, it doesn't go all the way there. It's like the ending of Inception. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's a reason I love it so much 'cause it leaves you on a choice, and, like, you can interpret it in so many ways. That's why that's where it can be vague, where the audience when it just ends on it, and the audience can interpret it on so many things, not at, like, a climax point or someplace like that, but right when it ends on it, and it truly does leave it up to you. That's where I like it to be vague, not in, like, the climax or in the middle of the movie, unless it has a very specific purpose. So that's for me. But yeah, it's like this whole movie, the more I think about it, the more I love it, and I think that's the same for you, honestly.
Yeah, no, I do. Again, I am still definitely thinking about it, which is the idea. Because no, there's definitely a lot there, both just like plot wise that I just didn't initially catch, and like thematically that I'm still trying to consider exactly what is going for there. Where again, that's great, and I wouldn't like the reason why I want to watch it again and I want to stick with it is because again, very well. We haven't even talked that much about anything apart from the story. I mean, that is the to an extent, but very well shot, like consistently interesting to look
Yeah.
at, just in terms of how it's framed and how it's composed. Very insanely well acted. It is so kind of consistently good presentationally, and that's what lets me kind of stay like be willing to give it that more attention interpretation wise because it's again, it's interesting in every kind of regard. And you just even apart from that, just the experience of watching it is just an entertaining, well-paced kinda, like, thriller. It's fun. It was a
Yeah.
fun time.
Also another like, I think that it's something that's overlooked is, like, the minimal score. It has, like, one tiny, like, I think flute themed or something else. Like, that's kinda, like, going throughout the movie, and, like, it plays when he's buried underground, under the car with the singular whistle, and, like, it plays in other parts of the movie, but, like, it's kinda similar to the Planet of the Apes trilogy, at least Matt Reeves' version, where there's not much of a score, or at least not as good of a score as the main simple score, with, like, a singular instrument, with a singular kind of rhythm and tone. I don't know if you remember it that deeply, but, like, I do remember, like, watching some sort of, like, a tribute to it and just hearing that simple flute throughout the thing and showing everything that happened, and, like, it's just such a good way to describe a story like that, like, not like, because that's what I love, like, the story itself is already dark and bleak and terrible, like, and if the music was just did that, then, like, it would, like it wouldn't do anything new, but the music gives it a certain other angle of it, like this kind of intrigue and, like, like, there's more to it, and that's what I really loved about it. I just have
Mm.
so much to talk about. Like, it's such a good movie, and that's what I love about his movies, like, when I do agree with you when I can come back to the movie and think about even more things that happen and how, like, how you can really, really take it apart. I do really enjoy those types of movies. I also enjoy other movies where I have a fun time and also return to them just because 'cause they're fun, but these movies I do really, really enjoy, and I think as a whole, I mean, you've only watched 2 movies of him, but, like, Denis Villeneuve is a great director from already what you've seen, am I correct?
No, yeah, he's very like all of his everything I've seen from him so far, all 2 movies are
Yeah,
like
all
very consistently well shot and interesting and like fun to look at. Like they're all doing something very clearly with how they're framed and shot.
yeah, definitely.
And they're also
Um,
just consistently like clearly focused in terms of the writing process. Like they're always created in a way where you can get more out of them. But and I am partially attributing that to his direct involvement with them.
yeah, definitely, and I don't
I
know,
don't
you
have too much more to say though. I will say
yeah, I guess.
I enjoyed it though.
Yeah, once again, it's a
You
movie
watched it
that,
more
like,
than me. You watched it extra time.
there's just so much that I love about this movie and so much I think is great, so, yeah, that's, I'd give it a 9.5. I
Woo!
really do love it. I
Damn.
do really love
Nice,
this
okay.
movie. The more I know you're, like, up in your eyes, like, maybe on a day where I'm not thinking about it as much, I'd give it a 9, but, like, it's above a 9 for me. I never give anything a 10 unless I think it really
Okay.
deserves it, but, like, it's at least above a 9 for me. I really did love this movie.
Yeah, I'm again, I've haven't had the time to get as attached to it personally, but it again, it is very it's fun, it's engaging. I like what it's going for. It's very consistently engaging, and it's like basically on every level, presentationally like compelling and like high bar, high standard. I again, I basically only had one issue with it. That one issue did kind of take me out of it a fair
Yeah,
bit.
well, I
So
once
I
again disagree, but yeah.
just I
Anyway,
that does
so your
bump it
ranking?
down a little bit, but I'm going to give it for now an 8 out of 10. It
Okay,
was great.
I honestly thought you were
I
gonna give it
liked
a
it.
7 or 7.5, and I would've been pissed.
No, it was good.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
do need to think on it because now I'm thinking back to my ratings for Blade Runner, and I'm thinking like, did I like those more? It's weird because I feel like those are way more flawed. Well, at least the original, 2014. I'm not sure. I need to re-examine my ratings for all these.
Still don't like the
It's hard.
original.
They always change with it. This is tricky. I'm gonna say that all of these are like a pending 7 to 9 range. I'm for now. I haven't put these in on Letterbox yet, so when I that's where that'll be quote unquote more like definitive. I have not put either Blade Runner movies or Prisoners there yet. Once I do, I'll have a solidified kind of
Okay,
opinion there. But
so I
I
believe
guess I would say for now somewhere between a 7, 8.5 range is
yeah,
leaning
Blade
toward
Runner,
an
once
8.
again, I didn't like the original, I really like the Blade Runner
Oh.
2049, but yeah, my rating's still stay the same, 6 out of 10 for Blade Runner original, and then I think 8 or 8.5 for Blade Runner 2049. So, next episode, we're planning on reviewing 2 movies once again. I think we agreed that the one of the movies is gonna be the new Fantastic Four movie. I'm not sure if you'll have a lot to say
Yes,
about it. I have a
we'll
reasonable amount to
see.
say about it, but who knows?
I
And now
probably know more about the Fantastic Four than you do, which is the
that
only
that
superhero that I think
might
this will
be
be
true? I don't
the
know.
case for.
I know some amount,
So
but,
I'm curious to see how that's gonna go.
anyway, so what is your
No,
and
I'm
last
curious
time I
about that, and
recommended
also yeah.
Prisoners, and it worked out, and now what is your recommendation?
Right, let's get funky with it. So, I have
Alright, please
wanted
don't
to
be
watch
too
this
crazy.
movie for a very long time because it's different. You haven't seen a movie from this director, I don't think. I'm recommending Being John Malkovich by
Really?
Charlie Kaufman.
Really?
I have been yes, I've wanted to watch this movie for an incredible. I Charlie Kaufman is my favorite director currently. Um, well, no, sorry, this I lied. He's written by Charlie Kaufman. It's not directed by Charlie Kaufman. It's directed by Spike Jones. I'm lying. But Charlie Kaufman joint. He is a writer director. My favorite writer director. I have loved everything that I have seen from him that he has had a hand in. This is probably the movie from him I've heard the most about before watching it, which is part of the reason why I picked it
Mm,
because I'm thinking maybe that's because it's more accessible, maybe not. We'll see. I am very curious here. I'm wondering. I wanted to also pick something. that would, especially because we're doing Superman Fantastic Four in the span of like 2 episodes. I wanted to add something a little more artsy to counteract the relative normalcy we've got going here. So
Completely
I'm
normal,
very
but
curious
yeah.
as to what you're gonna think about it. But I'm
Okay.
relatively relative to something like this. Kaufman's work from I exposed to so far is very creative and gets weird with it a little more. And just I don't know too much about this movie. I haven't been spoiled anything, but I think I know the concept on a base level, and I am very curious because so I'm very excited for this one. I know that you've not been privy to his filmography as much, so we'll see.
Fair.
I'm curious as to
When
what your
I
stance on it's
introduce you
going to
to
be. We'll
Denis
see.
Villeneuve, you might introduce me to someone else, so who knows? But
True. We'll
yeah,
see.
so this is the end of episode 2. Episode 3 should hopefully be out sometime later. So, yep. Bye.